Hello, sweet souls. Welcome to a Waking Moment podcast. I'm Dani Palacio, your host. And if this is the first time you're tuning in, I welcome you and I invite you to explore the many episodes and the countless topics that we talk about. But there's only one theme, which is to support you in finding your truth, discovering it through your experiences, your thoughts, your emotions, and your relationships. So grab a cup of coffee, go on a walk, do what you're doing, be you, and I hope that you enjoy this episode. And for those that are returning, thank you so much. Your support and your love is so important, and I appreciate it deeply. It is felt deep in my heart, and it helps me move through some of the sticky, yucky, darker parts of my life and my journey. And so just know that you matter and I love you. So on this episode, we're going to talk about mental health. Yeah. So on 10/10, October 10th is World Mental Health Day. And I didn't know that. And I thought, well, maybe October is mental health month, but that turns out to be May. So on a worldwide level, just a few days ago, we had World Health Day. Mental Health Day. And that's part of being healthy and all of that holistically. But I want to talk specifically about mental health because, well, it's a very personal and deep story from me and my life. And there isn't one person in my life or that I've known that hasn't been somehow impacted or influenced or has experienced themselves some form of mental imbalance, emotional instability, even fear and doubt, anxiety and stress. That's a mental health thing. It's a body thing too, right? It can be triggered by hormones, it can be triggered by work, but it is mental as well. The brain has all kinds of, and by the way, I'm not an expert, so bear with me on this, but my understanding is that the brain has a bunch of different ways to connect. It has different hormones that help it. It has a bunch of like dopamine and serotonin and these things that help keep us what we would call balanced. And they can all kind of get askew. And that can be because lack of sleep, because we're not eating well, or we're not eating the things that our bodies really, really desire. We're feeding it too much sugar, too much processed food. And this isn't in any way a lecture around any of that. The intent and the purpose of this particular conversation is about bringing grace into it. So I'm going to start off with a few statistics because when I read them, I was like, whoa. And I'm focusing on the United States because most of my listeners are in the States, but I know that I have several around the world, which I appreciate. And I'm sure in your countries, there is statistics that probably match the United States, or hopefully they're lower. So I'm looking over at my notes, so bear with me. I don't want to get the numbers wrong. 21 million adults in the United States have experienced a major depressive episode in the past year. 21 million. And that only represents about 8.3%. But I was like, that seems so low considering how many people are suffering. So I kept going into my research and I found out that the rate is currently having depression or being treated is actually much higher, and it's actually around 18%. And that is as of early 2025. From 2023 to 2025, it's doubled. So we are getting more mentally ill, mentally unbalanced, not having ideal mental health. And it's incredible, the rate. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the pandemic 5 years ago and the economy and the political status and the political strife and how we've seen our structural ways of living, experiencing, interacting shift. things are changing, and change creates stress. It just does, because not many of us, me included, really know how to embrace change with acceptance, with grace, with peace, with willingness. Um, and I'm sure some of you are saying, Dani, that's not even possible. It is possible. I don't always experience it, but I have experienced, and I know others that have experienced it. When a change comes into their life, they're like, oh, okay, I knew change was constant. And what is this asking of me? How can I be more self-loving, more self-care, slowing down so that the change isn't so traumatizing, dramatic, instantaneous. And sometimes we do not have control over that. And I want to honor that too. We can only, I was going to say, we can only control what we are in charge of. Some of that's true. What I'm learning in my life right now is that control is it is the biggest illusion. It is the biggest game. It is the biggest con of existence. We think we control all kinds of things. I am controlling what I am drinking, right? I am controlling that have decided in this moment to record a podcast. I made those choices. Yes, but I do not have control over if there's electricity. I do not have control over who will listen to this. I do not have control over a lot more than I think I do. And that may cause you stress in this moment. So take a deep breath. And just know that everything is okay. It really, truly is. Like, it doesn't feel that way. But we as human beings and we as spiritual soul essence energy will continue. Like, I always talk about the soul being energy and how energy cannot be destroyed. There's a truth in that. And there's also a place of comfort in that. We are in this experience and we get to choose how we show up for that experience. We get to either live in our doubt, live in our anxiety, live in our fear, or we get to take a breath, maybe do some form of practice that calms us down, that brings us back into our heart. And what we really mean by that, like the collective, what we really mean by coming back into your heart is moving out of any doubt or fear and moving into acceptance and understanding that love, that frequency, that energy is the highest frequency and energy we have on this planet. And moving into the heart means trusting, allowing, and surrendering that you are perfect just as you are, that you don't have to control or fix anyone or anything, and being true to yourself, finding that inner truth for you. It may not be someone else's truth. That is perfectly acceptable. But for you not to own what you believe is true can be damaging to your soul's evolution and can be mentally, I don't even know the word, torturous to your mind, to your emotions, to your sense of self. So I'm going to share some personal stories now, because I want you to know that mental health is something that is fluid. We can have it one day and we can have it not the next. I was very suicidal when I was about 17, late 17, almost 18. A lot of change had come into my life. My parents moved. I had to start a new school for my senior year. We didn't have a home to live in. We were living with a family member. The guy that I was in love with and in a relationship with, we broke up, and that loss was my first true love. So it was significant. And at 17, my hormones were driving most of my reality. I just didn't think I could go on. I hated it. I hated where I lived. I hated my parents for moving. I hated the world for all of its things I had. I'm sure I had a list of all the things. And the loss of a love, the first one, right, caused me to really question whether or not it was important for that I even be here. And I didn't think it was. So I came up with a plan of how I would kill myself. And I was pretty committed to it. And I was living on the West Coast in Portland. And I think alcohol probably had some play in it, to be honest. I was 17 and was hanging out with mid 20, late 20-year-olds. Sometimes some of them were in their 30s. And they were drinking and I was drinking and I was working. And so I thought I had freedom. I thought I was an adult. I thought that that life was so much better than the life I was currently existing in. And my mind started to play tricks on me in some ways, pointing out all the lack, all the loss, all of the pain. And I did not have a positive, healthy way to process it. So suicide was the answer. And I had figured out when I was going to do it and how I was going to do it. Like I said, I had come up with a plan. And something in that moment, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, something in that moment said, call your sister. It's like, what? But I heard it. Somehow I heard through all of the noise, through all of the pain, through all of the sadness, I heard, call your sister. And she lived on the East Coast at this time. So it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, her time. And I call and I'm crying and I'm distraught and I'm spinning out of control. And in that moment, she was everything I needed. And she saved my life because she listened to me. She comforted me. She encouraged me that things were going to get better. And she knew how hard it was for me to have made this move and not wanting to make the move again. This was the second big move in less than 3 years. So I was really like teetering on, I can't do this again. So she said, you're coming to visit me. I'm buying you a ticket and as fast as possible. And I think within a day or two, I was on a plane. Like it wasn't long. It was fast. And I was there for a couple of weeks. And it was wonderful because I was with her and I was with my beautiful niece who was small and cute and gave me lots of love and hugs. And it shifted. And somehow, I think she talked to my parents, to be honest, and said, get your shit together in whatever way she could. And so by the time I came back, they had moved into the house that we lived in that they bought. I had a room and I had about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before my senior year started. And I didn't kill myself. Not all stories end that way. And mental health, depression, sadness, trauma, I've lived with my whole life. In my mid 20s, I started going to counseling more frequently and more regularly, found a counselor I really liked, and then continued to go every week. And at some point she said, you need some mental health. You need to balance out your chemistry. And I knew the truth of that. And so I started, well, at the time, Prozac was the number one mental health drug. I hope it's not the number one because it has some serious impacts. Anyway, it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. My body wasn't I don't even know, I got pains, I got anxiety. It did not help calm me down. It intensified the experiences. So tried another, and I got on Wellbutrin at the time. And that one helped. That calmed things down. That slowed things down for me to be able to process with my counselor some deep emotion, some deep trauma that had happened when I was a child. And I have now moments and sometimes days where I'm still sad, where I am depressed, but I accept it now. It's different. I know that I can recover. I know that I have support. I know that I have friends that love me. Um, and that knowingness was partly because my sister stepped in and saved me, took care of me. Um, and so now I mean, like now I am what, early 50s. And when I have anxiety, when I have fear, I stop and try to breathe and ground. I don't do it always so well, but I try. Today it's 2025, so 2.5 years ago, I went on short-term disability because the exhaustion that my body was experiencing and the mental clarity was not there. And it was deeply impacting my physical health because they are connected, like I said. And so my mental health was impacting my physical health, and I was going down a spiral that I did not want to go down. And so I took a short-term disability from my job and dealt with some serious sadness and some anxiety and some fear. And it hit me in such a weird place because I had been doing so great, thinking I wouldn't experience this again. But the truth is, I did. And I'm not ashamed of it at all. And I was reading about why there even is a mental health awareness month and a world mental health awareness day is because for so long, mental health was seen as you're insane, you're crazy. There was no grace, no love, no acceptance, no education. People didn't understand what it was. Um, and so bringing that awareness to the world, helping people understand what mental illness is or what mental health can look like, and how do we provide the resources for people to have mental health, and to even talk that it is a thing. If you are experiencing anything I talked about or something else, and your mental health is not where you want it to be, or you are just so distraught and you have no idea where to turn, who to talk to, I'm going to list some websites and some phone numbers in the summary. Please look at them. Please use them. And don't hide. Don't shame yourself. Don't blame yourself. Get help. Reach out. Find support. Ask for support. And if you're not in a place of even asking for support because you're in such a downward spiral, then know that there is a hand waiting for you to grab it for help. That you're not alone. And that darkness, that fear, that feeling that there's no point, there's no purpose, there's no reason, it's a real feeling. And it's not true. We can feel all kinds of things, and they don't have to be true, but we feel them nonetheless. So please reach out to your friends, your families, that stranger, and remind them that there is kindness and love in this world. Be an ally, be an advocate, show up. If you have the capacity to be kind, to share a smile, to offer compassion, do it. So often I have felt nervous or felt it's not my place, or like some weird conditioning of our world or our society says, oh no, you stay in your lane. You just stay in your lane. No, there are no lanes. We're all connected. That person that's hurting, that person that's suffering is us. We're no different. You can keep yourself safe and say, oh, well, that person's really not doing well. They're upset, they're sad, they're angry, they're depressed. But in a spiritual, energetic sense, that is you, because we're not separated. We're not disconnected from each other. Even though there are so many things and programs in the world that say we are not. So if it were you, play the game. If it were you, how would you love yourself? How would you shift? How would you take care of yourself? What would you need? Now, I'm not saying your answer is ideally perfect for the person that's suffering, but it's a good way to get out of the fear, the dread, the belief systems that you stay in your own lane, that person over there, well, every time you're pointing at someone, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. I want you to remember that because it's never about the other person. It's always about yourself. Always. And we need help processing what that means because it's a huge awareness. And with it does come some sense of responsibility. And I keep asking myself every day because I'm not where I want to be in this lane, right? I'm not where I want to be in this experience. I want to be a bigger advocate. I want to be out there more. I want my energy and the healing energy that comes through me to be available for all of my clients, yes. And for all of you who are listening, yes. But could it get bigger? And I do want it to be bigger. I want a platform, a stage, a place, a way to allow that energy to come out. And anyone that hears or sees me, or even reads my book, that when they touch it, read it, see it, hear it, there's an opportunity for a shift, an opportunity for a healing, an opportunity to know that they are loved, that they are seen, that they are wanted, and that they are important. I talk a lot about emanation because so many times I meet people that are in the spiritual world and they're like forcing the energy. But what about just being the energy and allow it to emanate out of us? I love Snoopy. In that series, in that cartoon, there is a young boy who is dirty and has like a dirt cloud around him, and I believe they call him Pigpen. And there's this dust. And it's a great visual understanding of what I'm talking about, which is he is who he is. He has his blankie for security, and he has dust and dirt. He's just dirty. He's just because he doesn't really care. And he's just who he is. And you can see the dust cloud, right? Because every time they do the cartoon, they draw him with little lines that show like he's dusty, dirty. We're like that energetically. I'm not saying that we're dirty. What I'm saying is in that cartoon, it's clear to see who he is and that it is just going everywhere. We can be the same for the light, for the love, for the acceptance, for the kindness, for the compassion, for the joy, for the willingness, for the bravery, for all of it, you know. We talk about an aura, the aura around us, the energy capsule bubble that exists around us, right? That's true. Energy is frequency. Frequency has a signature and it vibrates out. So if you just are what you most desire, then let it out. Know that it's being shared through you just simply being. And you need to be alive to be. So there you go. All right. Well, this was a big topic, kind of deep. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it. I don't have all the answers. I haven't done all the research. There's a gazillion books. I'm not like that. I'm not that kind of person who feels like I have to prove to myself that I'm perfect in it before I share it, or that I know everything about it, or that my numbers are correct. The point is the same whether I've done all the research and read every book than when I haven't. My true desire for you is to be yourself and to feel the love that you are and that you were born with, and to know your place. It comes from love, compassion, kindness, generosity. My intent is simply that. And this is a topic that I felt like I had something to share about. So, thank you for listening. I appreciate you. And I send you love. I send you blessings. And know that I'm here. I'm available. There's a lot of ways to get a hold of me. They're down in the summary notes. I wish you all the best. Thank you again. Until the next time.